I'm Justin Boyd.
I'm Brittany Pacheco.
I'm Frank Castle.
I might be addicted to Blind Six.
We are the Watchers in the Basement.
Welcome to the Watchers in the Basement. We are here today to discuss episode 4, season 1, Daredevil Born Again. Episode titled Sic Semper Systema, which is Latin meaning thus always to the system. So this was a big episode. We've got a lot to break down, and let's get right to it. Overall thoughts of episode 4 for Daredevil. Brittany, start us off. What did you think about episode 4?
Episode 4 was a little slow for me. Obviously, there's a lot of story buildup that we're still, needing to understand, right? We're accustomed to having these main characters be a certain way, living this dual life, right? That, lawyer by day, vigilante by night, mayor by day. Well, he wasn't mayor back then, but he was a bad guy, right? And it seems like we haven't quite got to the point where we're just getting their other personalities to come out just yet. But you see that they want to scratch that itch, right? They're just like fighting that darker side of them, if you will. Not saying dark is bad in the sense of Daredevil, because we all know I love me some Daredevil. But still, story development, of course, it dragged some for me. I felt like there was some filler that we could have done without. It was a 55-minute episode, but I felt like it just kind of dragged a bit. It did get interesting, I think, maybe the last 20 minutes of the episode with the big reveal of one Frank Castle, who, I really wish Disney had not put the thumbnail of Frank Castle when I, went to go tune into the episode, but there we are. It is what it is. We'll talk about it in a little bit, but overall, episode was a little slow for me. It's obviously developing the story, but there were some interesting moments in this episode, that's for sure.
Frank, what do you think about this one, episode 4?
Brittany and I spoke about this at work today. I feel the same way. I think this episode felt like it was part of the original 18-episode arc from season 1, and it felt like episode 15 of 18. It felt like a lot of filler to me. I'm not a Law and Order guy. I know Law and Order is a great show and people love it. It's been highly esteemed as SVU to all the other genres. All the law stuff is cool, but the reason I love Daredevil so much from the comic book world is that it gave you a healthy balance of action and a healthy balance of like what Matt Murdock does in his day job. And I think that's what drew Marvel fans to this character, was like the day-to-day struggle and balance of like being in touch with his faith and like the art of forgiveness and giving people a second chance and redemption, while just suppose the mask, the Daredevil outfit, and going out fighting crime and maintaining that balance and never going overboard. And I feel like so far in this series, which the episodes are fine, I don't hate the episodes, but because you only have 9 episodes, you only have a finite amount of time to like show Daredevil as Daredevil. And we've only got him in the suit once in 4 episodes, and we're already halfway through the season. So the pacing for me is a little bit lethargic, a little bit dry for me. Like I appreciate, like I feel like episode 3 was needed to like reintroduce people who have not seen Daredevil, who have not seen who Matt Murdock is, to see his skill set in the courtroom and see how he moves and everything. I appreciate it. But then in episode 4, I thought that we would get Daredevil, you know what I'm saying? And I haven't gotten that yet. And I don't know when we'll get that. And it just seems, I don't know, it just seems like we're getting too much lawyer shit and not enough Daredevil shit. And and like again, he's one, when you rank like the top 5 to 7 like hand-to-hand combat fighters in the Marvel universe, Black Panther, Spider-Man, Daredevil, Iron Fist, these guys are all like top tier. Show me that shit. I want to see it. You know what I'm saying? So like that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm like at the point where I need to see the outfit. I need to see him, doing this thing. So I give it. It was okay. You know, for me, it wasn't much of a rewatch. The last 10 minutes I loved because Frank Castle's back, but in totality, I need action to hurry up and pick up.
Wow, I'm honestly surprised at what I've heard so far. Tristan, what are your thoughts on episode 4?
I really like this episode. Again, we talked about this across multiple shows now.
Yeah.
Give me the slow shit. You know, like I savor, as long as it's good slow shit, as long as it's building towards something, as long as it's illuminating a larger message, larger theme, larger plot, extra characterization. Like if it's good, if it's aiming towards something, you can give it to me all day. Of course, we want to see the action stuff. I want to see the action stuff, which I was super excited at the end of the episode where he, you know, we know that he still has his plethora of suits, his array of suits. He has everything in waiting. Like he's so close to that edge. You know, he's so close to jumping over that cliff and going back. Or you could look at it in the sense that he doesn't have to go back to anything. Like he is always Daredevil. Daredevil is always in him. I loved it. I love the Frank Castle scene so much because to me, and we'll talk about it more, but like it demonstrated, like for so many of the people that Daredevil, that Matt Murdock is fighting, is in conflict with, he sees himself as the same person as these people. Like he said to Frank Castle, like, hey, you and I, you know, people like us, you know, stuff like that gives me an extra layer into Matt Murdock / Daredevil, the character. And to me, it's just as needed as the action for me. The one part of the episode that I thought could be filler, I just didn't understand the point of it, was the, you know, going to bail the guy out, you know, was it Leroy something?
Right. Leroy Bradford, I believe. Yeah.
Leroy Bradford. I didn't really get that part. I did enjoy the scene with him and the DA, just kind of negotiating, mostly because she was gorgeous. Good Lord. But I love the back and forth. Matt Murdock is just not skilled at fighting. Like he is so good at a lot of these things, and it's important for us to continue to see that absent of the action. So I really like this episode. I don't know if I loved it. Like I have to watch it again. I didn't get a chance to rewatch it before, you know, we sat down and record. But I won't say I was on the edge of my seat all episode, but I was like very excited for what I was seeing. I very much liked it. This was a high 7.5 to 8. You know, like a 8 that I, you know, can see myself continuously thinking about and going back to watch, you know, but I really liked it.
Yeah, Tristan, I think me and you were on the same page on this one. Just first I'll address the Leroy Bradford thing. I think the point of that was to show the life of a lawyer, whereas in the previous episode, Matt, he has this high profile murder trial, and then now he's, you know, taking on this like petty crime case. And it was also to show us how the system doesn't work for everyone, doesn't work for certain people especially. I think that was part of that storyline. I thought it was kind of weird because like Leroy, the actor, did a great job, but he's not very likable, you know, because most of the time he's talking about how Matt's blind, which is, you know, we get it, we know, and it's like he keeps, you know, this is the guy that's trying to help you out. You're kind of running him down every chance you get. But my thoughts on the episode overall were, I thought this was a really good episode with like some really great scenes, and there was one especially that I think we're going to spend a great length of time on, and because it was a good one. It was a real good one, and let's get right to it. Let's get to it. We had Frank Castle is back in the Daredevil universe here. The last time we saw him was season 2 of the Netflix show. He also had 2 seasons of his own show, which I have not watched yet, but I've heard do not really deal with Daredevil. So I will get to those at some point. But this scene was an all-timer. I mean, to me, like it was very similar to the first scene they had together on the rooftop when Matt's chained up, and I just love their interaction. I love how first of all, John Bernthal is the man. Like, I mean, a guy like Tristan knows this from watching The Bear. This guy, he does like one or 2 scenes a season on The Bear, and they're the best scenes of television all year long. I mean, some of the strongest stuff you'll ever see.
You know what, real quick, you know what it reminds me of? You remember like after Deion Sanders left the Falcons, like he just kept bouncing from like team to team, but like they would all win every time. Like,
Yeah,
that's John Bernthal. Like, I
there
might
you
give
go.
you 3 episodes of a season, but you will remember the hell out of those episodes.
You will. And he's got some big stuff coming up. He's in the Amateur, that movie with Rami Malek, which is coming up in a few weeks. He's also in The Accountant
Odyssey.
2. Yeah, the Odyssey. Also, he's The Accountant 2, which with Ben Affleck, which also comes out in April. So he's got a lot of good stuff coming up, but he's exceptional in this episode. And like I was saying, calling back to his appearance in season 2 of Daredevil, the Netflix show, I love how he calls Daredevil Red. I think that's such a cool nickname. It's like a cool moniker that he gives him. And I love how it, like, the dynamic between the two, where, Frank tells Matt, like, I think you're a half measure. Like, I think the difference between me and you is, like, you beat up these bad guys. You hit them, they get back up. I hit them, they stay down. And, like, he basically is saying, like, look, you're just one bad day from being me. And so I love that that was from the season 2 of the Daredevil show. Then in this episode, I mean, there's so many lines. We're gonna go through it. Brittany, what'd you think about Frank Castle's appearance in this episode?
Other than being spoiled to his return in this particular episode, thanks Disney Plus for the thumbnail choice. And I'm also staying off social media in regards to not seeing spoilers, because y'all know how I feel about that. I want to go in with open-mindedness. But yeah, like the return of Frank, I have questions, right? And we, maybe not all of us, but we recently did a rewatch of Daredevil, the Netflix show. And I'm trying to recall if Frank Castle ended up knowing in the end who Matt Murdock really was, if he did find out that he was Daredevil, because the fact that, Matt obviously shows up unannounced to Frank's hideout, if you will. It's pretty heavily, I guess, hidden away, if you will. There's security cameras and things like that. But, Matt says hello. Frank goes and like kind of charges after him, pushes him up against the lockers. And he's like, it's me. It's Matthew. And Matt drops all the blind, performance, right? He's walking around without the cane. He's like, commenting about, place looks great. Ha ha. But, when Frank is having that conversation with Matt, he refers to him as Red. And I'm like, wait a minute, when did this become common knowledge for Frank?
I was going to ask the same question, because I don't remember Frank knowing that. And I guess I'll ask our Frank. Frank, do you remember when that happened? Or did that happen?
Did it happen? I mean, supposedly the time span from the end of the Daredevil Netflix show to now is supposedly 7 years.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, what happened during that time?
It was real subtle. In season 2, when Matt is cross-examining Frank on the stand, Matt calls him Frank, and he remembers the how he said his name. It was the same way Daredevil said his name on the rooftops. So it was never officially, but then when he says it, Frank goes like, he puts 2 and 2 together, like, oh shit, that's Red. But he doesn't say it out loud. So it's real subtle. I think it was episode 11, right when Frank goes off in the courtroom saying he'll do it again.
He would do it all over again. Yeah.
I think that's at that point. That's when Punisher found out that who Matt was. So it was never explicitly said, but Frank is a military man. He espionage, all that shit. I think he once he analyzed the voice and how his name was said, that's when he knew who he was.
And that would make sense. Still reflecting on Daredevil Netflix show, the finale of season 2, when Daredevil is fighting with Elektra, all the agents at the hand and what have you, that Frank pops up with his gun and like he's shooting from like another roof and what have you, and he's saying something about Red and this and that, what have you. So it would make sense why he'd come out and like help out in a way, I guess. But yeah, that the first watch, I was like, when in the hell did they like reveal their identity, to one another? Matt, meaning Daredevil, his identity. But the dialogue between them, incredible. I mean, John is just like a fantastic actor. And I read somewhere recently that he initially had turned down his cameo appearance or occurring, having an appearance in the show with the 18 episode run, because the storyline or the reason for his character being in it didn't make sense to him. So he turned it down, but then they came back obviously with a new script and said, hey, this is what you're gonna do. And obviously, he agreed. So, but the dialogue between the two and Frank wanting Matt to talk about Foggy and say say his name. And Matt's just refusing because, he doesn't want to deal with that death. He doesn't want to deal with that trauma. And Frank, who obviously lives in daily trauma, he knows a thing or two about what that feels like, what that looks like. And he's able to relate to Matt on a level that I think Matt's hasn't been able to feel comfortable speaking on, because others just don't fully understand what he's going through, right? And it was very real, very visceral and just cathartic, and it was so well done. I love seeing them back on the screen together. It was great.
Yeah. Frank, there's not a whole lot there wasn't really any action per se, physical action in this episode, but there's a lot of verbal action. And honestly, I think that's what we're going to end up remembering that more so than we remember the kicks and the punches. I mean, you think about the best moments in the MCU, it's all the stuff that's people say, I'm Iron Man, on your left, I'm inevitable. All that kind of stuff is the character moments is what really matters. It's not so much the action. What'd you think about the verbal sparring between these two characters?
I mean, it's elite. I mean, they have a kinetic energy, how they feed off each other, especially with their never-ending ideologies, how they continually clash with their ideologies. I mean, these are two great actors, man, who can fire up any scene, especially when they're together. They're dynamite. It's the perfect conflict between two people, because you have two people who believe in justice, but different forms of justice.
Yeah.
They're both vigilantes, and in a way, they're both hypocrites. In a way, Matt with his vigilante, he's literally a vigilante. He's not a cop. He's not a military person who polices. He's a vigilante that carries justice in his own hands. And Frank, who in his own right, he carries a form of justice in his own hands, but his form is way more permanent and way more violent, to where Daredevil is continually day to day, fight to fight, is continually on that edge of not trying to go too far. Both acts are illegal. So it's like Matt is judging Frank for what he does, but Matt's also breaking the rules in the form of fashion. It's just conversation how far you take it. So it's a great barbershop conversation starter, because you're always going to have that. It's always going to be a polarizing conversation, and it's not to the point where nothing or anybody's going to ever take the middle. It's going to be either you're going to be on Matt's side or Frank's side. It's nothing in the middle with these two ideologies, and that's the beauty of it. And how they rehash that conversation in this form was even more beautiful, because, or tragic, if you want to say, because of what Matt went through losing Foggy. And when Frank said that, man, when Frank told Matt to say his name, that moment is when I had chills, because at that point I had no idea what Matt was going to do. Was Matt going to beat him up to a pulp? Was he going to just fighting? It was a trigger, and that scene is beautiful because it shows you that the closure that Matt has not gotten yet, and compound that with the fact that Karen is left, him not wearing the suit. It's it's unresolved self-fighting that Frank is going. I mean, that Matt's going through, and Frank in a way is creating a therapeutic moment for Daredevil, to where he's forced to self-reflect. What are you going to do about this? You talk about justice and the day in court, but now you've been directly affected by this. Do you still stand true by your words and ideology? And that's why. And that it's a good question. I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer to it. But I love how the show reintroduces that with the new formulated things that Daredevil has gone through, losing a friend, and see where he stands now. So episode 5 will be interesting. It will be interesting to see where he stands when it comes to that, because in the comic books, there have been times where Matt has gone overboard and beat people to death, and so I don't know if the show is going to like showcase that, but it's going to be interesting to see after this conversation with Frank where Daredevil takes it now.
And I don't really look at, I might be really wrong on this, but I never have looked at Matt and Frank, either or Frank, as hypocrites, because I feel like they go towards their ideology so head on that they just kind of live in it. Like they face it so head on. Like it's not like Matt is like, hey, I'm against violence. Like that's the big, like that's your whole brand, my brother. Like I think the biggest dichotomy between them is it's so dependent on what happens to you, right? Both of them believe in violence as justice, right? One obviously is willing to take it much further, but think about what is his trigger? What is the triggering event that sent him on that path, right? Is his son dying?
His whole family.
Matt,
yeah.
With Matt, like, yes, he's had loss, obviously. Like Foggy is somebody super close to him. But I think even Foggy, represents or illustrates something that like, man, this could be a trigger to send me over the edge, right? It just hasn't happened yet. But I don't think Matt ever denies what he could do, right? Like he is in complete it's like me and sarcasm. A kid asked me one time, like, hey, are you being sarcastic? And I was like, I really don't know. Like it's so within me, right? It's so embedded in my DNA,
The answer is yes.
The answer is probably yes. But like it's so embedded in my DNA that it has its own mind, right? Both of these guys are the same guy. It's just one has taken it a little bit further. But like there's honestly not that much of a difference in their ideology. It's just one has crossed that line and he's accepted that he's fine. I don't even know if he's accepted he's fine. He's just accepted that I'm beyond the line and this is just what it is. Matt hasn't crossed the line yet, but Matt also understands that probably the best permanent solution to his issues is to cross that line. Like he understands that. It's not like he's so against it that he's like, oh, I'll throw up if I have to kill somebody. He's like, no, I don't want to kill somebody because I know I can and will, and it's probably the best option in this particular case. But I just haven't gotten to that point yet. You know what I'm saying? Right. So that's what makes the scene, like their whole relationship, the conflict between them, so interesting because they understand each other, right? They know how to push each other's buttons. There's not like the biggest misconception, and I'll wrap this up here, but like biggest misconception about for years, but between like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X is like one is just nonviolent and one is a radical. No, they both are radicals. Malcolm X understood nonviolence. He understood the point behind nonviolence. He just like, I just can't fuck with it. Sorry. You know what I'm saying? But up to a point. And there were times where he was like, hey, I understand with it the concept of nonviolence. I want to live in a peaceful world, right? But we don't live in a peaceful world. So it's a matter of, hey, Frank's just a little bit more advanced in the trauma and the PTSD that he's dealing with and how he deals with it. But Matt's not really that far off.
Yeah. Let me answer to that, T. I think the reason I say hypocrisy more so with Matt is because vigilante justice is illegal. Like you can't go around just beating up people, can't go around, subduing people. That's the hypocrisy part. And then like as far as like him, well, let's rely on the law. Let's rely on the justice system. But how you go about getting these criminals in front of the justice system is you're policing these people yourself. You're doing the policing, which that part is illegal. So it's like at that point, it's the point of no return. Like, you're not killing people, but you're still doing illegal activity when it comes to subduing these criminals. And that's the hypocrisy part that that I'm talking about with Matt. I'm not saying Matt's wrong, but from the court of law, if you want to go off law, it's vigilante justice is illegal.
But it goes back to the line. Like, he's crossed that line so long ago that it's now his identity, right? It's not like he's going back and forth between nonviolence and like one small thing and he's right back into violence. Like, I've crossed that line, but there's another line that Frank has crossed that I understand why he crosses that line, because I want to cross the line too. I guess the hypocrisy is in battling himself, not necessarily Frank and his ideology. It's like these two sides of me, or this part of this dark side of me, this darker side of me actually, that is threatening to come out at any time. I choose to tamp it down for the greater good, but I've eschewed the greater good so long ago. Like you said, being a vigilante is not the greater good on a 360 macro level, but this is his brand. It is his identity now. Killing is not his identity, but he's not too far off.
Yeah, and I think that, like you said, Frank Castle's reached his breaking point. That was kind of brought to him with the death of his family. But one of my favorite lines, and we're gonna get everybody's favorite line between this interaction here in a second. But I love how Frank is like, he says, you didn't come here for my help. You didn't come here to ask me to do your candy ass hero shit. Like, you came here because you want my permission. Like, you want, you had Foggy died, and now your client was just gunned down, and you haven't done a goddamn thing about it. And so, like, you've actually reached the breaking point. You just don't want to admit it. Like, I love that, like, that part of it, because he's like pushing him toward, like, you want to be this guy. You want to be like me. You're just not, you're afraid to do it. So with that, Brittany, let's go around. Is there a line that I didn't mention that we haven't talked about that was your favorite between the two?
I think when it started becoming very emotional between this conversation, Matt is really refusing to say Foggy's name. He's like refusing to face the reality of the tragedy. And for Frank, he's really pushing the buttons and talking about that, like, to Matt, like, you hear him, right? He speaks to you, and you see like that softer side of Frank that, he's a hard ass, right? He is one tough motherfucker. He has his moments in The Punisher, which I know you haven't watched, Justin, but he has his moments where he really does appeal to whoever he's speaking to, trying to kind of like talk them down or what have you. Like, this was that moment. And I love seeing those moments with Frank Castle, because you just think like, this guy is just, he's a hard ass. He has a code. He does these terrible things, and in his mind, it's justice. But when he's really talking to you as a person, it's just completely different. So the line being, so what now? Every day, Bullseye goes to the chow hall, eats his slop, and he gets to breathe the same air that you breathe. You feel good about that. And Matt just kind of loses it. He's like, he got life. And then this is when Frank kind of calms it down. He goes, how about old Foggy? He get life? And then you just see Matt break. It's just, oh my God. Like, that was absolutely incredible. And when Matt finally kind of comes to willing to talk about Foggy, he says this line. He goes, Foggy, he was the kindest, purest soul I ever met. And guys like you and me, we can work a lifetime and never measure up to his decency. And I was just like, damn.
Great stuff. Frank, do
That
you
was
have a
my
favorite
line, by the way.
That's yours. Okay.
Guys like us, like that. That was like a ding. Like, ooh, like they're not actually fighting. Like they are fighting like ideology, but they know I'm just like you. So that was my favorite. Just want to chime in.
Frank, did you have something we haven't mentioned?
No, the trigger for me was say his name, and then when Matt yelled he got life, and then when Frank said, well, what about Foggy? Did he get life? And then the action that I really appreciated on screen that I saw was when Matt punched him, when Matt punched Frank. And that was in Frank's dark way. That was Frank pretty much telling Matt, hey man, let get shit off. Let it off. Like I could take it. you need to decompress and let this out. You know, scream, do whatever you got to do. I could take it. And I think that was Frank's way of like being comforting, as fucked up as it sounds. But Frank didn't attack him. He didn't retaliate. It was like he knew Matt needed that, which is crazy because he hasn't seen Matt at this point probably years. You know what I'm saying? So that kind of speaks to like their chemistry, even though they haven't been around each other. They know each other so well, and it's almost magnetic and scary how close they are as far as like how they bounce off each other.
Yeah. You know, one thing we didn't mention that I thought was really powerful was when Frank says, you know, what it is you hear Foggy, don't you? You hear him in those quiet moments. He's like, just like I hear my son. And you know what he's saying? He's saying, get him, daddy. Get every single one of them, or something similar to that. And I was like, that's good stuff. That's really, really good stuff. And I can't wait to see when Frank Castle returns to the show. Hopefully he returns this season. I would think he will because of the Punisher iconography and the Punisher cop tattoo stuff. But like
I liked how he referred to the cops as he's a fucking fanboys bullshit or something like that. I was like, that's great.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny.
I do want to mention that this scene that is in this episode was originally shot for a later episode, but they decided to move it up. So that's very interesting. Hopefully we see him again. We know for sure he's going to be in season 2. He's going to have his own special after season 2. There's going to be a Punisher TV special that he's writing and obviously starring in. So that'll be exciting next year. Moving on. So first of all, so how did Matt find the Punisher? Well, he was doing some investigative work trying to find the shell casing. You know, the unfortunately we saw White Tiger was killed at the end of episode 3. Matt finds it. He finds that, you know, it's got the Punisher logo on it. So that's what leads him to Frank Castle. But let's go back to the beginning of the episode because it opens, which I'm glad they addressed this right away we're with the medical examiner. We see White Tiger's, you know, his costume, his amulet, and we meet his niece. And I thought this is a really, really great start. This actress, I don't have her name in front of me. But I thought she was great. And I thought she really delivered. And by the way, she's the niece. Angela Del Toro is the character. One of the people in the comics who does become becomes the next White Tiger or becomes a White Tiger. And it seems like Brittany, they're definitely pointing to her becoming that. Maybe not this season, but I would think so in season 2. What'd you think about this opening scene?
I first saw her and I'm like, who is this baby? Like, who is this baby girl? Like
there's no way she could be a superhero. That child is 4'3".
I mean, okay, as someone who's under 5 foot, I was like, okay, in Brave New World, we get a former Black Widow who's like this big, you know, and now we have another supposedly would be a superhero in the future who's this big, and I'm like, my people, we have arrived. Like it's our time. Yeah, but she was feisty. I mean, listen, they're Latinos and Latinas. We're another breed, if you will. Like we get feisty, right? And she was pissed. She wanted to see her uncle. She wanted to know who did this to her uncle. And she knows. She's like, these fucking cops, you know. And I was like, the use of the F word in this series as opposed to the Netflix series, I think is just kind of wild. I honestly feel like this is their way of just kind of sticking it to Disney and just be like, we are who we are. We're going to keep doing what we do best. And we're just going to sprinkle in some word enhancers here and there, but frequently, if you will. But yeah, she was feisty. I love that about her. It spoke to me on many levels, if you will. But, you know, she's heartbroken. She's heartbroken that her uncle, who, you know, did these things, was murdered in cold blood. And she wants justice. I mean, justice is obviously going to be a huge theme in this entire series. We heard that as much with Leroy when he's like, they gave me a blind lawyer. He's like, all right, you know, look at blind justice and this and that, what have you. And I'm like, you know, yeah, that's a thing. That's a thing. But no, I thought she was very, very fiery, and we'll see what comes of her in the future.
Mm-hmm. So
was her name Ava?
It's Angela.
Angela. Okay.
Yeah, that's his
So
niece. Yeah.
okay, because there's been like 5 white tigers in the Marvel universe, and like
Right.
I know Ava Ayala, which I believe was Hector's sister,
Right.
was like the third or fourth white tiger, and she actually was a Shield trainee, and she became like Nick Fury's right hand woman at one point in the comic book. So I don't know all the white tigers. I don't know of 2, Ava and Hector. I don't know the other 3. I think they're all in like the Ayala family. But yeah.
Yeah. So we get possibly the next white tiger, but we still don't know who killed the original white tiger. And Tristan, I want to get your thoughts on this because Matt thinks he knows. And actually, at the courthouse, he encounters Officer Powell once again, which this guy, I mean, he's begging for a beating. He wants to just die, I think, at the hands of Matt Murdock. I mean, this guy is off the charts insane. Like the level of confidence this guy has after getting just brutally beaten. By the way, where's his partner? Where's the partner at? Because the guy got even, he got whooped even worse than Powell did. But taken to this scene, which I think is also another great scene where Matt, he encounters Powell, basically says, "Hey, like, obviously y'all killed off Hector because of what happened to one of the cops, and you don't, it's a bad look for y'all, and y'all are getting retribution against that guy." But Matt then listens to his heartbeat and realizes that, when the guy says, "I didn't kill him," or "I had nothing to do with it," Matt knows that that's actually accurate. Tristan, what did you think about this scene and the part where Matt got a shot in saying, the guy's like, "Hey, I'll see you around," and Matt's like, "Yeah, you might want to bring a couple more of your colleagues next time you see me." Yeah.
So 2 things. You mentioned it, but like the biggest thing for me was him hearing, feeling that heartbeat.
Yeah.
Knowing that he wasn't lying about not killing, White Tiger, which again as we saw later on in the episode, like opens up more possibilities. Like, who is this villain? Like, so we get a new villain. Yeah. We got like 5 more episodes. So that opened up like a whole nother Pandora's box of, okay, now Matt already has to focus his areas, his attention on so many different areas, right? Fisk always, like that's a ongoing thing. Still mourning Foggy, trying to find out who's the killer, Frank Castle. Like there's so many different, ways that he's being pulled. And this just creates another string, another thread that he has to pull from in order to avenge White Tiger. The last thing, like, of course, the banter between them was great. But for me, the thing that it had me thinking about, because the cop kept making, reference to, hey, the judge, it wouldn't want to know, like the bar wouldn't want to hear about an attorney, who could fight, who's beating people up, who's
interfering with
investigations, all these things. It made me think, like, is there a possibility that Matt Murdock isn't a lawyer anymore? Because like so many of these different things are happening, like he has, again, like he gets pulled in so many different directions that it causes him to make decisions that can blow up in his face and can potentially, get his ability to practice law taken away. Like, and then what does that mean for Daredevil and like, again, how far he's willing to go to evoke justice. So those are 2 things that like had me buzzing from that scene.
That would be interesting if he just ditches the lawyer gig and he just is full on Daredevil vigilante. That would be a very interesting decision. So Brittany, Officer Powell is probably the number 1 suspect for who killed Hector, but obviously that's not the case. So I want to get everybody's thoughts. We'll start with Brittany. Who do you think shot White Tiger? Because it's got to be someone of substance. I don't think it was Frank Castle. That doesn't seem like, even though we saw the prominent Punisher logo on the shirt. Do you have any thoughts on who you think maybe pulled the trigger?
Foggy
came back.
I don't know. I don't know.
I've got one idea, but Frank, I want to get your thoughts. Do you have a guess on who you think shot the White Tiger?
I think whoever did was hired by Kingpin. I think Kingpin oversaw. I think he watched the whole case on TV and like was just disgusted about this guy getting off free, and we can preface that because in episode 1 he talks about his disdain for vigilantes. And I think that conversation he had with Matt was like a low-key threat, like, motherfucker, if you put that cowl on, I'm coming after your ass. And they pretty much both high-key threaten each other. And I think Kingpin, as an example, took him out to show the rest of the vigilantes in New York, like, if y'all get back to your vigilante activities, I'm gonna take you down. Not the legal way either. And I think one of those cops that was in that courtroom was the hitman. I don't know which one, but I know in episode 3 they showed a woman and that guy with that neck tattoo a few times. So I think it might be one of them that was hired by Kingpin to do it. I think all the bad cops are working for Kingpin. I think he has them on payroll.
Okay. Tristan, any prediction on who you think's the killer?
I agree with Frank. I think it's something connected to Kingpin.
Yeah.
I will say, like, when they showed the killer at the end or towards the end, whatever, the demeanor just kind of screamed like maybe it's somebody outside of the police force. Maybe it's somebody, that is not connected with the NYPD that Fisk got to bring in to kind of remove a link between him and the police force. Like that, he seemed like, I don't know, demonic, diabolical, one of those terms. He or she, I don't know. I'm going to be gender neutral here. Let's be fair. So yeah, I definitely, outside of that, I have no clue whatsoever. But I think we'll find out or get a really good idea of who it is next episode.
Could it possibly be the new Wesley, if you will?
So that was my original thought. But while we were all talking about this, I came up with another one that just popped in my head. I think this might be the answer. What if it's Bullseye? What if he's out? Because Frank referenced Bullseye when he's talking to Matt, which, by the way, they never called him Bullseye in the Netflix series, right?
They didn't.
Frank says Bullseye. Bullseye, of course, impersonated Matt in season 3 of Daredevil. I think it's logical that maybe he's impersonating Frank in Daredevil Born Again. Just a guess. I think it's got to be a big character. Or maybe it's another villain that we don't know yet. But
then why? Like, why blame it on Frank Castle? I mean, other than the fact that the last time Kingpin and Frank saw each other was in prison because Kingpin had like coerced him to, out himself, bring him to jail so that he could kill people in jail, right? And Frank basically said the next time we see each other, one of us is going to be dead, basically. So is Kingpin probably trying to lure out the Punisher?
I don't know.
Dun, dun, dun.
Very likely could be. Yeah. Again, just total guess. I don't know, but it makes sense. But
I don't think it's Bullseye from the standpoint that if we analyze all of Bullseye's kills, going back to season 3, Bullseye has the narcissistic prowess of like extravagant kills from like long distances. Like the name Bullseye, like he really prides himself on pinpoint accuracy, and like all his kills will from like long distances, impossible like angles that you would think that would be hard to hit, and he hits it because I think that's what he prides himself on, is these extravagant kills. And that kill was from point blank range. I don't think Bullseye would have done that.
Okay.
So here in the chat, by the way, thank you to both King B. Johnson, M Moves, and Yesenia for joining us in today's live stream. We appreciate you sharing your thoughts here. Yesenia thinks it's she's referring to him as the page. I think Daniel is the name of the guy that works for the mayor now, or Fisk, the one who ended up spilling the beans about the union story to BB, which we'll talk about eventually. That's a thought. I think it's a bit out there. I don't see him doing that, but I could be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I mean,
honestly,
go ahead.
I don't think it was him at all. I wish I knew more about Bulls. I don't know shit about Bulls. So but it's an interesting theory. Yeah, I can't think of anybody who is outside of the police force, because I don't think it's a policeman or policewoman, but like, I guess we have like, what's the motive outside of like Fisk and his like disdain for like vigilante justice? What would be the motive? You know, outside of just being paid, you know, paid off. That's we figure that out. Like you figure out who's the killer. But I definitely think whoever the killer is part of a larger system against, I don't know, against Daredevil, against maybe somebody connected with the families. I don't know. But I'm heading out, kind of not feeling real right now. So thank you for everybody watching.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us as always. Hope you feel better.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Bye,
Take a
Tristan.
shit. Take a shit. Oh, he's gone.
I was just going to say.
Solid advice. I mean, hopefully it's solid. Yeah. No, I'm
Yeah.
kidding. Let's just continue. Let's keep it going. Go ahead, Brittany.
Plot twist.
Yeah.
It's Wilson Fisk.
He lost a lot of weight. Like he already lost a lot of weight, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, it's fine. I don't know. I hope we find out. Like, I hope this isn't like one of those things where it's thought of and then we're just going to leave it alone. I hope it actually comes full circle. Like, we're actually going to find out.
I think it's one of those things where, like, I think it's fun for us to speculate, but I don't think at this point we're supposed to know or really have much of a clue. You know, I mean, the guy was, only thing we saw was the Punisher shirt. So, moving on to something else that I thought was maybe the most shocking part of the episode. You know, obviously the Punisher being part of the show was very cool. Nice surprise. Like you said, Brittany was kind of spoiled by Disney's social media and by Disney Plus itself when you click on the episode. But Frank, I did not expect to hear the word scroll said ever again after Secret Invasion. But here we are. Leroy Bradford, who was Matt's client in the episode, he mentioned a possible defense for him stealing the fiddle faddle, which, by the way, I'd never heard of fiddle faddle. That's the first time I'd heard of that.
I'm sorry, you've never heard of the term fiddle faddle?
I never heard of that brand. I had to look it up. I was like, is this real? And I was like, yeah, it's real. I did not know.
It's like competition to like Crunch and Munch. It's the same shit.
Right.
Just like
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. I'm not really a big fan. I like just regular popcorn, but I've never been like a Cracker Jack kind of person. So
that is crazy. I mean, it's always been just like an expression. I've actually used that expression. Like,
no, I've heard the expression. But I didn't know it was a brand. I literally, I thought they just made this up.
Yeah.
But it's a real thing. But no, back to the question, Frank. Were you surprised when you heard the word scroll? When he said, "Hey, maybe it was a scroll that did it"?
I was. I mean, that was pretty much a failed project. I'm surprised that Feige greenlit that name to even be whispered or uttered in this series. Like, you trying to get far away from that as possible, and I was surprised to hear that. Yeah, for sure. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Please don't have any scrolls in this series. Please don't let that be foreshadowing. Let's leave that. Let's leave that in bed. Don't bring it back.
Brittany, thoughts on scrolls?
That was like, what? Like, we're really reaching at this point, and I hope there's not going to be a scroll. I hope there's not going to be another reference to scrolls. Like, I think that would kill the series for me, honestly, truth be told. Yeah, that was a reach. And that whole scene alone was, I think I understand the point of it, to showcase one, the day-to-day life of a lawyer who had to go downtown to do a favor for someone and dealing with not grateful clients, right, if you will. And this is just a thing in real life. Obviously, people have a sense of entitlement, have a sense of like, well, I'm not, I paid for that shit last week, but I came and got it this week. It's like, yeah, well, that's not how stuff works, obviously, right? And the demand of, I want probation, I'm getting probation. It's like, well, you did the crime. Like, what the hell makes you think that you get to decide what kind of punishment you get, especially when you have priors, long rap sheet, this and that. I mean, stuff like that just doesn't always go in people's favor, of course. And then you hear the story of the last time Leroy had been locked up, he missed his Social Security appointment, SSI appointment, and he lost his benefits. And for people who solely rely on that kind of assistance, it's devastating when you're cut off from it, right? And then apparently it takes forever to get back as a regular. So, the hardships. But I think the most powerful line he said in that whole conversation that really struck Matt was, they will spend 5 times more keeping me locked up than they would to feed me. And I'm like, justice what? You know what I'm saying? Like, that like hit real hard. And it's really unfortunate.
This is my hope and goal of this long ass scene with Leroy. I'm hoping that this scene is like showcasing how crooked these cops are, and that all 30 times he's been arrested or 20 times he's been arrested, that he was set up or he was just being fucked with. Because if he really is a petty criminal doing petty things, then I don't understand the whole 10-15 minute scene that he got in this episode. I hope that something turns out later on in the series or later on this season that the cops are really fuck with him, and it's a system that dirty cops are just picking on people, and like there's a racial element to it, because it didn't make any sense to me. Like, bro, we've been arrested 30 fucking times. Like, bro, that's wild. Yeah. Like, and then to have like this like attitude, like, you only got me 10 days of and no probation. Like, bro, like, there better be a reason why that scene was implemented, and I hope that it's a dirty cop angle, because if it's not and it's a petty criminal, then I think you wasted damn near 15 minutes of screen time in this episode.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get a call back to this. I think, like what Brittany said, I think the point of this was to show that, Matt deals with these major cases, deals with these small time cases. There's corruption everywhere. The system is broken. Like she said, the main quote was the part where he said, they're going to pay, pay 5 times as much to keep me locked up as opposed to feed me. I think that was the whole point of it. But I agree. I kind of bumped with that too, because it's just like, this is a lot. And then this guy, like, clearly he did this, but it's a petty thing. I get it. It's not like a big deal, but it's like, he's been doing this for so long. It's hard to kind of like feel bad for him. That's the part that kind of was tough. But back to the scroll thing, I just want to mention, like, I like that they mentioned it, because the scroll invasion, or the scroll, no, listen, the term should have been a bigger thing. Like, this should have been a thing, just like the blip, or the snap. It should have been something that people talked about for years to come, for forever, honestly. But obviously, the show Secret Invasion maybe was the worst overall project from Marvel Television. Like, it was pretty bad. So I get why you wouldn't want to mention it, but I also understand, like, it's a big deal. It should have been a big deal, and it should have been some kind of a movie instead of kind of a throwaway show.
Yeah, it should have been mentioned in Captain America. Like, you had traditional power with Thunderbolt Ross becoming president, and like in that Skrull invasion show, leaders were being replaced by Skrull members, and I'm surprised that wasn't mentioned at all. It should have been at least mentioned along with Celestial Island and like all of this stuff that was going on, but to not have that mentioned I thought that was kind of weird too, because it's a big event in the comic books that kind of like shifted a lot of storylines after that, with heroes and like different events. It caused Civil War 2 in the comic book. So I don't know why it wasn't even like mentioned at all the shows, at all the projects that we've seen in the last few years. It should be mentioned in Captain America: Brave New World, if anything, with Thunderbolt Ross becoming president.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think they're probably going to bring it back around at some point. Like, once there's enough distance between Secret Invasion and whatever comes, 10 years from now, they'll probably bring the concept back, because it's too big of a deal to just kind of, throw it out there in a 6-episode show that doesn't do very well and then leave it there. We're about to talk about Fisk quite a bit, but to wrap up Matt's his life as a lawyer, Brittany, I want to get your thoughts on this, especially because I know you're a big fan of Charlie Cox. You're a big fan of Matt Murdock, but you have competition. I mean, it seems like every woman in the Marvel universe, especially New York City, is in love with him, including this like attorney that he goes to talk to. She is like, as bad as Pal wants a beating, she wants pounding. It seems like from Matt Murdock. What'd you think about that scene?
I've got plans for her. I might find myself taking 30 days in jail, but maybe just serving 20. But it's fine. No, she's gorgeous. Oh my gosh. Like, yeah, the sparring between her and Matt, of course, Matt's quoting, philosophies and things of that nature, and pointing out that it's Latvian Heritage Day. And she was taken aback by that. And him showing off with his great sense of smell about what she had for breakfast and things like that. And yeah, I was like, yeah, you can flirt with me like that too. Like that's cool. Like as long as we end up in one place, like we're good. We're good. I will say I was very happy to also see him shirtless. Finally, we see the scars from his previous encounters in the Netflix series and whatnot. So that was fun for me personally. But yeah, I've got plans for that girl. I've got plans for the psychiatrist as well. And listen, I on that note, I'm just gonna say it. There's way more to her than meets the eye. She made some remarks about him having not come home on time, and she's like, when I'm at my place, like I don't worry about you, but when I'm here and you're late, like I start thinking, did he fall down on the tracks? Was he kidnapped? And he's like, kidnapped. And then she later says something else about her profession and how she can't talk, or he can't find out what was discussed. And she's like, well, I can tell you, but then I'll have to kill you. And I'm like, she's bad. And not bad in a good way. Like she's bad. Like she has to be.
Yeah,
there has to be something, because the way that the two specifics, the pushing or falling onto the train tracks, I'm like, okay, well, that cop got pushed into the oncoming train and obviously died. Being kidnapped, and then the end, I won't say end scene. Well, yeah, end scene of another character we haven't discussed yet, kidnapping people, if you will. And I'm just like, is she aware of things? Like, is she aware? Honestly, I was like, that was not lost on me. I was paying attention.
Yeah, I think she's going to be a villain at some point in this. Maybe not this season, maybe next season. I think she's going to turn on Matt. Maybe she'll be on Team Fisk because she is their couples therapist. And then, Frank, let's talk about that. Let's talk about Fisk. He first of all, he's not having a lot of fun as mayor. We'll talk about that, but let's talk about the therapy so far with the Fisk and Vanessa, and we finally get some information about Adam, and of course, then we see him later. But what did you think about this whole interaction with the Fisk?
The therapy scene?
Yeah.
That was one of the few things I did enjoy about this episode was the dynamic or lack thereof between the couple with the therapist, because again, I didn't watch Echo. I didn't watch so a lot of this off stuff that Kingpin getting shot and leaving and all of that. I was unbeknownst to. So like I like that they're filling the blanks a little bit of like why their marriage kind of fell apart and why they're working towards something. So like having her as a mediator there is cool. Now what brings talking about when it comes with therapists, I don't know if she's bad, because the level of concern that was on her face when she asked Vanessa, do you feel safe? Right. I don't know. Or maybe she's compartmentalizing, and like she's just really good being like a double agent. I don't know, but like the way she asked that was really out of like deep concern. And I think in like knowing her file on Wilson and knowing what Wilson's all about and what he's been, I don't know if somebody who's really evil or has evil tendencies would show that kind of level of concern, or maybe she's just doing it as a good face because saving face because she's a therapist. I don't know, but for new TV viewers who don't know much about Fisk and Vanessa's relationship, if you didn't watch the Netflix series of how they met and all of that, you will have no idea what's going on. So I do appreciate the episode of them showing the struggles of their marriage and what they're going through. But that was a dark scene, man. Like when they asked about Adam, he's like, don't know. He just disappeared. Like it's like
Yeah.
We just had a conversation. We
No,
exchanged words.
we had a dialogue. Which
We had a dialogue.
Yeah, like who the fuck says dialogue? Like nobody says it like that unless you killed somebody or you had somebody dealt with. Like if I'm mad at somebody or mad at my wife for cheating on me, I'm not gonna say if I say dialogue and not talk or we hashed it out or whatever. I did some fuck shit to that person. And when he said dialogue, and then like, I don't know where he went. I was like, bro, he's either dead or he's caged up somewhere. I literally told my mom that because we was watching it like on Zoom together. I'm like, that motherfucker he's in a cage somewhere, hanging over a street corner or lava, something. Like he's alive and caged up somewhere. And then like when they saw him in that cage, I was like, my mom was like, motherfucker, you called that? I was like, I know, right, mama. So like I love it because like it makes you realize that Wilson's never going to change. That's just who he is. He's an evil man by nature. Like that's his default button. Evil's his default button. And no matter how much he's trying to hide behind this mayorship and like how much he's trying to hide behind this like facade of Wilson can fix it and like all this. He's evil reincarnated. Evil incarnated. That's just who he is. And which is another interesting take too, because in the comic books, they have a child. They like Wilson is obsessed with Vanessa, and you kind of see that in the show too. But in the comic books, you never got the feeling that Vanessa was in danger of Kingpin. In the show, in that episode, I felt like, damn man, if that bitch pushed Kingpin far enough, she might get missing. Like that's the vibe I got from that therapy session. But as opposed, even in Spider-Man into the multiverse or whatever, Kingpin is trying his best to bring back his wife and son. Like it's like his dying wish. And like this incarnation of Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin is, it's like, man, you double cross me, I don't give a fuck you, my wife, anybody, you will be dealt with. And that's the vibe I got from that therapy scene.
Yeah.
So first of all, Frank, I love the fact that you and your mom Zoomed together to watch this episode. I think that's like the sweetest thing I've ever heard.
She loves Kingpin, which deeply concerns me. It's her favorite character in the whole series. Like she was so upset when Netflix didn't pick up season 4 of Daredevil. She was done. She was done with Marvel TV. Like she just started watching Marvel again like last year. Like it's like she was pissed off because she loved Kingpin.
Okay, I'm deeply concerned too, but I love the fact that you guys like will watch the show together and bond. I think that's very sweet. Secondly, to go back to talking about the therapist and in her asking Vanessa about, based on the nature of this conversation and who your husband is, are you safe? Like, do you feel like he'll harm you? I think for sure that is putting on face of, I'm a good therapist. I care. I'm deeply invested in you, who you are, because she, during that session, told Fisk, I want to hear from Vanessa, because it seems like always Fisk has the last word, right? He's first to speak. He's last to speak. It's his way. And opening up that conversation for Vanessa to take the lead is showing I'm here to support her as well, right? But I also feel like you said it very well earlier, compartmentalizing information and how it can be useful for her. Because Frank, and you brought this up when we discussed this offline about a certain character in The Punisher season 2 of a certain dynamic relationship, what have you. And the more that we're talking about this, I'm like, okay, I can see it kind of being very similar to that sort of relationship from season 2 of The Punisher.
Well, I've not seen season 2 of The Punisher, so I'll have to get on that to understand what y'all are hinting at. But let's finish up with there's a lot of stuff to talk about with Wilson Fisk, but let's talk about Adam. So we finally get to learn something about this guy. We actually get to see him briefly, as Frank said, he's caged up, and in one of the final scenes of the episode, we see that Fisk is back to, he's still Fisk. He's still, he's we were talking about earlier how about earlier in the season about they kept showing what he was eating. He was eating like a egg white omelet or something like a piece of asparagus or something like very very dainty kind of food. And here at the end, he's like chowing down on pasta and pasta with like meatballs or with like
Sausage.
sausage links or something. And this guy Adam's in the cage. And Brittany, we learned about Adam. We learned the fact like what attracted Vanessa to this guy because she's really into art, of course, and he is apparently an artist.
I cringed honestly when she was describing what it was that attracted him to her and attract. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
And she's like, his hands. I was like, oh my god, like keep it in your pants, woman. Like Jesus. She's like, they created the most beautiful sketches and Fisk is over here like, can we end this? Can we stop talking about this? Like, and I'm like, dude, yes, I need her to stop talking about this as well. But yes, Vanessa is very into the arts. She obviously ran an art gallery when she met Wilson Fisk and they bonded over paintings and this and that. We know of this, infamous painting that Wilson loved, and it was just simply just white paint, splattered all over a huge canvas that at the end of season 3 was splattered with blood. And we get a reappearance of that painting as Wilson is making his way to his secret lair to have dinner and have Adam watch him begging for him to be released. And Wilson's like, you will refer to me as mayor. And it's just like, like I'm like, we're scratching that itch. Like we're about to scratch that itch. And it just, I don't know. That was kind of trippy to me because I'm like, wow, Adam's not at all what I expected to look like. Right. I mean, I kind of, this sounds so cliche. I thought maybe she went after a younger man who obviously was a very talented artist and it's like, a specimen of some kind, but no, doesn't seem like that. But I do have questions. How long has Adam been there?
That's my point. He might be young and dashing. He could be Ryan Gosling adjacent. That motherfucker probably been there for weeks.
Okay,
that hair looked long and stringy, and he looked stressed the fuck out. Yeah. Like he been there for a good minute because when the therapist asked him what happened to Adam, they like, I don't know. It seemed like he's been gone for a while, and like
because the other thing, it's like Wilson's going down these stairs, going through this tunnel and what have you. It's like, well, is that the same spot when we first see him go down to talk to Vanessa when she's holding meetings with the mob bosses? Like, is that still the same layer? I call it a layer because it appears to be underground, but is that the same spot or is this elsewhere? And if so, how is Vanessa aware of it? Like, obviously, clearly not, but I have questions. This show is like creating a lot of questions for me, and I don't like that.
Yeah, I will say this. I don't. Who wife that is, and for you to have the gall and the daring mentality to fuck this woman, that pussy can't be that good to risk your life. It can't be. No pussy is worth torment and death. Like you had to have known who wife that was. Like it's well known who she belongs to, and for you to be like, yeah, I'm gonna fuck this bitch. Why not? Like she's a single woman. Like, bro, if that was Kingpin's sister, second cousin, fifth cousin, I'm not touching her. Bro. Like, sorry, man. Like, I don't feel bad for Adam at all.
Yeah, and Fisk is keeping his word though. Adam's still alive. He's just, he's just alive though. He's in prison though. I wonder how that's going to play out if we're going to see him freed or if he's going to be killed or
I feel like Kingpin really destroyed Adam's hands, given the new information that was shared during therapy.
Well, so I don't know if I was the only person who thought this, but when they show this, they show his fingers are bloodied, And I thought for sure, this is disgusting, but I thought that Fisk maybe cut off his
Eating the fingers. I thought
Yeah,
the same exact thing.
because the sausage links, I'm like, are those his fingers? Like, and then I'm glad it wasn't, but I was like,
It looked
it's
very
kind of
disgusting.
like why? Also, like, wouldn't you just eat like meatballs, like with pasta? I don't know. I guess sausage links are with pasta. That's a thing, but like to me, it was like too close to his finger. I don't know. It was just. I was like, this is kind of gross. Like, I don't,
I also thought it was poopy. Like the
really?
consistency. I don't know why.
Yeah, but why would he be eating that?
I don't know. Because he's sick. I don't know.
Okay, well, that's a new one.
Because I looked at it and I'm like, is he about to eat shit? Like, seriously? Like, why?
Wow. Yeah, no, not that.
Gives a whole new meaning to eat shit and die.
Right. But to wrap it up, I did like how at the end of the episode it shows how Fisk is back to being his old self, and Matt is also preparing to return as Daredevil. He goes and sees all the different costumes and
who
masks.
is making them? Who has made these costumes?
I don't know.
I'm with Brittany, man. We spoke about this offline too. That shit pissed me off. Like, Stick is dead. Melvin's dead. This motherfucker's not a scientist. He's not.
Well,
he's blind. Like, how's he making all this clear?
It's been 7 years since the Netflix show. We saw the red and yellow in She-Hulk, so he obviously knows other people in this world. We kind of have to like I said, it's not Aunt May. I don't think Aunt May's making these for him. Obviously, Aunt May's gone. She died. R.I.P. Sorry, I just thought about
Justin,
that.
how dare you?
Yeah,
God.
Marissa Tomei. We lost her. I forgot. Not the actress. She's still
not
alive.
hot Aunt May.
Yeah, but the Aunt May character.
It's a buy one get free Wakanda sale. Come to Wakanda, you get all the half price vibranium suits you can possibly get.
Yeah, I don't think just like with Cat 4, like, man, like if everybody gets a vibranium suit, then everybody's basically Superman. Like,
fuck yeah.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, who's making these suits? Why does he have so many? Why the color variations?
Because he's a superhero in his school. Because that's what they do.
But in all actuality, he leaves his apartment, goes up to the roof in this little like metal bunker, if you will.
Yeah.
And then the door slides open. I'm like, who fucking installed that?
Instead
who
of
did that?
Yeah. Instead of the Bat Cave, he has like the devil attic or something.
The devil den.
The devil's den. Yeah. There you go.
I just that irritates me so much.
I thought it was a cool way to end the episode. Then we also saw Muse, who we actually don't know the name of the character yet, but that's the guy who's making the artwork. He's abducting people, killing people, and taking their blood and painting with their blood. So that guy's going to have a bigger role as the season kind of rolls on. But I did be remiss.
Him breathing was crazy. Like the mask, you obviously see the breathing in and out as he's extracting the blood from his latest victim. I was just like, oh god, this is rough.
Yeah. I do want to mention that Fisk, while he wanted to be the mayor, he ran for mayor. He's not seemingly having much fun as the mayor because there's a lot of stuff that with being a mayor, with being in politics, there's a lot of processes or steps and red tape that he's not used to. And, like he has long days, where he has to listen to kids sing. We built the city on rock and roll, which is so crazy that the kids sang the song. Then these Latvia people on Latvian Heritage Day, which, by the way, when I first heard Latvia, I was like, oh, are they trying to reference Dr. Doom? But that's Latveria. I had to look it up because I'm like, no, Latveria is the fictional country that like Doom rules. And we're not getting to Doom just yet. Next year we will. But I did think it was interesting how they chose a Starship song, because there was a Starship song in the Thunderbolts trailer. So I guess they have licensing for that band, and they're just going to milk it for all it's worth. But Frank, what'd you think about Fisk, kind of having a tough time as mayor, because things don't happen as quickly as he'd like?
I thought that was necessary to see, because Fisk is a guy who's so used to doing things his way. He's so used to being the kingpin, like the de facto boss. Yeah. And now having to serve the people is like, he didn't realize, oh shit, I'm actually serving the people. I can't just do what I want. There is red tape. There are processes I have to adhere to. I have to go to this, to the school recital. I have to go to this, to this nursing home. I have to adhere to the people who voted for me, who support me. This is a political game that he did not account for, because he's so used to doing what he wants, how he wants, when he wants in the criminal world. So I thought it was very important to show that, just because you're kingpin in the criminal world, you can't pull that shit here in the mayor's office. So I thought that scene was needed.
Yeah.
My ears were bleeding listening to those children. Listen, on the rewatch, I fast forward through all that, including the Latvian choir. I'm like, nope, can't do it. Can't listen to it. I love music too much to hear it be so discoordinated like that. Like I was just, it hurt. It hurt. But seeing Fisk try to run the hell up out of there after that, the children's performance was great. And it's like, oh, and another. He's like, no. I'm good. Like, I gotta go. Bye. But also to see him unleash in front of his staff after the leak story about the union and the garbage.
Yeah.
That the guy Daniel spoke to BB about when they were out in the club and do their thing. It's like, who goes to the club and talks about stuff like this? But whatever. Gen Zers, you guys are weird. But that, to me, showcasing that BB obviously exposed the story. It meant that Fisk had to cancel that meeting. He was very pissed about it. It's like, okay, well, her head's on a platter at this point because she exposed that story, right? And she already has a relation to a character that Fisk had already killed in season 1 of the Netflix show. But for Daniel to own up to his mistake and to basically plead for himself, and even the other staffer to kind of stick up for him and say, well, if he goes, I go too. And Daniel is just pretty much professing his loyalty and saying, I will do anything for you. And I'm like, this is not going to end well. Not going to. You're either going to end up like Adam, or you're going to be doing crimes for Kingpin. Like, it's just not good.
When I first watched the episode, I didn't, because like you said, BB takes Daniel out at the club, and she's getting him drunk because she's trying to get information from him. And the first time I watched the episode, I didn't really clock the fact that, like, whenever he looks at his phone, it's the BB report that he sees. She breaks the story. I thought, in my head, I was thinking that, like, she shared the story with one of the newspapers, and the newspaper broke the story. But when I on the rewatch, when I noticed it was actually her, I'm like, wow, she's like really putting herself out there for something that, like, I mean, yeah, the garbage story it's a problem, obviously, in New York, in the MCU, maybe it is in real life too. But, like, to me, like, is that the hill you want to die on potentially? Like, I thought she has bigger. I think she has had bigger aspirations. Maybe this is just like the first chance she can take a shot at Fisk, or she's just looking to, like, put information out there, get clicks. I don't know. That character I'm still like kind of baffled by, because it's like, how does she not have an idea about what happened to her uncle? Or maybe she does, but it just seems like she doesn't. Seems like she's just very opportunistic and trying to launch her journalism career with these viral videos and her vlog and website. I don't know. I'm still trying to piece together like what's going to happen with that character, and that could be a good thing, but I hope there's something more to it, because it seems like her stuff is like very surface level right now.
I mean, she's putting a target on her back if one already isn't there. I mean, this would probably tip the iceberg just a bit more, and especially knowing that Daniel has a connection, with her, and he works for Fisk, and now that he's professed his loyalty to Fisk, I mean, he's going to use that to his advantage. And like I said, either he's going to end up like Adam, or he's going to be doing crimes for Fisk that still could result in ending up like Adam or worse, Yeah. So it remains to be seen, really. But the cutaways of the BB report interviewing, man on the street style, the one woman who's saying, Fisk said that he was going to get things done, but yet every news story that breaks, it's a scandal. Like he's a part of something that's just not good, and yet we're out here living amongst the garbage, basically. And it's like the metaphors. I love it. It's pieced together very well.
Yeah, Frank, want to get your thoughts on BB, her role in this episode. What do you kind of see with this character going forward?
I don't know. I'm
in the same boat. It's hard. Like I don't really like. I kind of understand, but I feel like there should be more. Like I feel like she should be more focused on what the hell happened to her uncle. Like, how does she not have an inkling that like Fisk killed him? Like I just
that's kind of where I'm at too, because like you became a journalist, right, or an aspiring journalist. I'm assuming it's because you want to follow suit of what your uncle did and how much he meant to the community, especially in the news business.
Yeah,
I would have thought by now it would have been said by her, like, you know, like we haven't even acknowledged that her uncle, that her saying that my uncle died or my uncle was killed, and I kind of wish that it would have been explicitly said by her to let us know that she has not let this go.
Right.
I think it would have given us more of a clear path of why she's been implemented in this series. Because right now we just know she's Ben Urich's niece, but like we don't know her ulterior motives yet. And maybe it may come out later on. Maybe she's playing the long game of like, maybe she did find something or a connection of Kingpin doing something to her uncle, and now she's playing a long game to bring this man down. I'm hoping, because right now this is a lot of surface level shit, and her scenes really bore me. So I'm hoping there's a payoff there.
Yeah, it seems like the BB report just kind of serves the role of like it's just a transition from one scene to the next. It's just like a little in between thing, like a bumper between, you know, one Fisk scene to one Matt Murdock scene. So yeah, we'll see how that all plays out. Brittany, as we're wrapping up here, is there anything you want to talk about that we didn't mention?
Oh my God, there was, and it just left me as soon as you asked that question. Go to Frank, and maybe I'll think about it.
Frank, anything that we didn't talk about that you want to put out there?
I guess the connection with the Muse and like how is the Muse and these violent acts, how's that gonna inspire Daredevil to put on the cowl? If it's not Foggy, is it going to be the Muse? And if so, in what fashion does he do it? Because it seems like these killings have been going on off screen since episode 1, because they kept showing these paintings and these murals. And I guess my question is, when does Daredevil turn his attention to that? Right. Is my question. So
my guess is he's gonna, I mean, I don't want to say it's gonna be White Tiger's body, but don't you think he has to like take a dead body or someone that Matt knows, and then like use that blood to paint with? I mean, that maybe this is like way too far, but like there's got to be some connection, because really with Muse, again, this is a character that we've not heard the word said, so it's more of assumptions. More people like that's what the character looks like in the comics, so people are calling it Muse, but we've really only seen the guy, you know, for literally like seconds, probably like maybe a couple of minutes tops of screen time. So it's still very much a mystery, and we still have 5 episodes left to go in this season to kind of solve that mystery. But there's not much connective tissue right now for us to really even speculate. I mean, speculation's all we have, honestly, at this point. Brittany, did you come around to whatever you wanted to mention?
I did, and I realized I had already mentioned it. It was about fast forwarding through the kids' terrible singing. Yeah. It was really, really bad. I'm just looking at something here about it was like an Easter egg that I thought was kind of interesting, but I can't seem to come across that either. But the clubs that Matt is practicing with at the very end of the episode, where again it's like he's trying to fight himself about putting the suit back on, but he's the guy like would always practice something, fighting, boxing, that kind of thing, which I miss not seeing in this series as of yet. We got a lot of the whole boxing thing because his dad was battling Jack Murdock, right? And that was a core part of who Matt Murdock is. But seeing him with the clubs, but him whipping it around like and I don't know what it's actually called, but it gave me
it's almost like
Shang-Chi.
nunchuck kind of work, like Michelangelo from the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah. But it's like it reminded me of the sister in Shang-Chi when she was practicing with the weapon and it was like flying about and what have you. Like that's pretty cool. Like I don't know, because I know Charlie genuinely trains, to do a lot of these physical fight scenes and whatnot. But that was kind of cool. Now, whether or not he was actually able to do all that and it's just CGI, it looked cool. I was happy with that aspect of a bit of action. So yeah, I thought it was that was pretty cool.
Okay, Frank, final thoughts. What do you think about this episode overall, or just final thoughts?
I need more fighting. That's it.
We're gonna get that. I think we're gonna get that.
Yeah, I agree. I need more fighting. I need him in the suit. One of the 7 million that he has that is from the unknown suit maker. Just put the suit back on, damn it, or not. Let me see you shirtless again. But that being said, I'm hoping for action. And given that next week's not just one, but 2 episodes.
2 episodes, yeah.
So we better get some freaking action.
I predict that he suits up next week, maybe at the tail end of episode 5, leading into episode 6. I think there's going to be something.
Quote you on that.
Something big's going to happen. There's got to be a reason why they're pairing these 2 together, because the rest of the season is 1 episode a week. So we shall see how that plays out. So anyway, now you know what we thought about this episode of Daredevil Born Again. We want to know what you thought about it. And Brittany, how can people let us know?
As always, we invite everyone to join us for our live streams, such as today. Shout out once again to King B. Johnson, M Moves, and Yesenia for joining us here in the live chat. And to those who may not have participated in the live chat, but were watching the live stream, thank you very much. We appreciate your participation. Please do consider subscribing to us if you already haven't. We are at 438 subscribers as of present time, which is great. We're on the road to 500. Help us reach that goal before the end of the year. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like button if you've enjoyed this live stream. And if you're watching the replay, leave a comment down below on your thoughts for this episode, as well as hitting the notification bell. That way, the next time we go live. We will be coming back next week with an episode review of 1923. Frank, Marcy, and Tristan will be chatting with y'all about that. And if I haven't already said to subscribe, please do so, because the month of April is going to be crazy packed with pods. We've got we've got The Handmaid's Tale, we've got obviously Daredevil and The Last of Us. If you guys are into any of those shows or all those shows, subscribe, check us out. We really appreciate it. Follow all of our social media. You can find the links in the description box down below. And lastly, we have audio podcasts available to you on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Be sure to give us a follow and a 5-star rating.
Thank you, Brittany. I appreciate it. So for Brittany and for Frank, I'm Justin saying thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will see you next time. Have a good night.